Hi, I'm Michael from War-Torn Studios, and this is another episode of The Hobby Hacker. In this episode, we're going to be going over how to make this little road section. Basically, you make this whatever size you want to make it as part of a modular road system, or even put it in the middle of 12-inch tiles and make it as to a whole modular gaming board. Or just make sections like that and use them for like a Gaslands board. Anything in that post-apocalyptic style, or anything sort of up-to-date realistic that's kind of not that far removed from the state of the roads right now. We're going to be covering how to sculpt all these little individual detail pieces. We've got like the grates, we've got the manhole. We're going to be covering how to do that and how to make stamps to set into the foam so they sit nice and flush. We're going to be doing all that on the computer, on Blender, totally free software. Get them 3D printed while we're busy making the board section. Alright, sit back, get yourself a brew, and I hope you enjoy it, guys. Right, we're going to model a few little detail parts we need for our road sections that we're doing, and I'm going to show you how to make these in Blender. We're going to make three things. We're going to make a storm drain kind of grill, we're going to make a manhole cover, and we're going to make an airbrush template that we're all going to print out on the printer. These are really quick to do. It's a really fast job, really. And we're going to be making all three things the exact same way using the Boolean modifier. So without further ado, let's just crack on with it. Just going to look at the workflow, look at how you can quickly get your 3D models, just simple stuff, made and printing while you're busy crafting other stuff. So what we're looking at here, this is as Blender first boots up. I've put screencast keys down in the bottom that will show you what I'm clicking. You can see my wheel clicks up, you can see my left mouse, you can see my right mouse clicks. Obviously if I hit any buttons here, you can see it comes up with an S for scale, you can see it comes up with an R for rotate, just to help you keep tabs on what I'm doing in case we're going a bit too fast. But I'll try and keep this simple, I'll try and keep this pretty frosty. Right, this is as Blender opens up. We've got the default cube, we've got a camera and a light set up. We're not going to bother with these, but I'm not even going to bother deleting them. So first thing we're going to make is the airbrush stencil. I think it's really simple, it's going to be really easy to do, and we're going to jump straight over to the dimensions. So I've got a ruler handy, and I'm going to use that to sort of gauge how big I want things to be, and I think we should make the stencil 150mm long by 100 wide. So we'll go over to our XYZ dimensions. On the X we'll have it 150, and you can see it stretches out immediately. On the Y we're just going to go for 100, and on the Z it's 2 mils thick. Right now, yeah, let's just leave it at that. That'll be fine. In fact, no, let's reduce it to 1 mil, which at 0.1 resolution on your printer is 10 layers, so it'll be a little bit flexible. There's no need for an infill, we can just print this solid, and yeah, okay, let's move on. So we now have our stencil. We're going to cut a block out the middle for where the white line is simply going to be. You could in principle do this for anything. You can punch out any size, shapes or anything you want, but first tutorial we'll keep things really simple. So we're going to create another cube. We're currently in object mode, and I'm going to scale that up so I can actually see it. So everything we create becomes a separate object. Now if I right click, I can select the first thing. If I right click on this, I can create that. Click and hold your mouse wheel lets you maneuver around, and scrolling your mouse wheel lets you zoom in and out. Don't really need much more information than that to get going. So the first thing we're going to do, we're selected on our new cube and press tab or go down to this little box down here and you'll get the different modes that you can put the software in. So we're going to go to edit mode, A to deselect everything, and control tab lets us choose how we want to interact with our object. Well, we want for this face select. That lets us click any one of these flat faces. If we go on to edge select, it enables us to select just one edge of the object. And if we go to vertex, it lets us just pick the individual vertices that the object is made out of. But we want face. We're going to select this face, grab the arrow and make it bigger. That simple. We're going to select this face and we're going to make it a lot thinner because it's a white line. Okay, let's jump out of here, go back into object mode, and we're going to push this all the way through what is going to be our stencil. Yeah, I'd say that's about the right size. Nothing fancy here. We could do exactly the same with two lines, so you could do double yellow lines for Python or a single line for single yellow lines or single red line or whatever. But I'm just going to do the little broken white line down the center of the road. So we're going to select the main stencil. It's important that you select this and not the piece that's cutting out. We want the piece that is getting cut. We go to this little I don't even know what to call them, all these little buttons here, and we pick the spanner. This is our modifiers, and we're going to select a Boolean modifier. So our object, there's only two objects, they're cube and cube 01. This is cube, this is cube 01. So cube 01, we're going to select that, and it all goes horribly wrong, but that's cool. Go up here and click on difference. Now what that means is that the new piece is going to cut out from the stencil, and if we go up here and hide the new piece, you can see it's cut a neat little hole out for us. I'm happy with that. That's everything it needs to be, so we're going to apply that modifier. We're going to delete cube 01, which was the piece that we used to do the cutting. Perfect. Let's turn it back on so you can see. So we've applied the modifier, which has made the cutout permanent. Select X, that way you can see me deleting them, and we'll click delete. And that is us done. Now if we go to user preferences, I'm assuming you've got a fresh install here, click on add-ons, and up in this search box just type in 3D, and all these little options come up of all different things we can do. You're looking for mesh 3D print toolbox, and now you want to turn that on. You do that simply by clicking until the little black tick appears. Save user settings and exit. That will have turned up a new option right on this left hand side. So if we select our stencil, 3D printing has now appeared down here. We're going to click on that and we're going to make manifold. Now we can see at the top of the screen that there was no modifications needed to be made at all. It's a very simple model, so I wouldn't expect there would be. But it's always good practice just to make sure your model is manifold and has no problems. So file, export as STL. I'm going to go where I want to put it, and I'm going to call it white line stencil. Export that. That's now done. Okay, we have our stencil. We've exported it. For something this simple, I personally would never bother saving it as a file. Because I have a copy of it saved as an STL, I don't see the need. But if you wanted to, you'd simply go to Save As, call it whatever you wish, place it wherever you wish, and that would be saved as a project that you can come back to and work on later. But I have it as an STL, I've no need for it here, it's gone. So I'll go to New, I'll go to Reload Startup File. To recast my keys so you can see what we're doing, and we're back at the start. So I'm going to keep the cube again, and I'm going to go straight into edit mode, straight into face select. A deselects everything, in case you didn't know, or while wondering what my magic button was. Exactly the same as before. I'm just going to tweak it until it's about the shape of the grill for a storm drain. Now I'm not overly fussed about dimensions because I'm going to set those dimensions when I'm finished. So as long as it's about right, that will be good enough. Now I'm going to go to Edge Select, and I'm going to select this edge here, and I'm going to hold my shift button, which will then add to that selection as opposed to just reselecting each new one. There we go. There we go. I'm also going to select all 4 of these edges at the top. Ah yes, I'm going to hit Control B to bevel, and as I move my mouse it then sets a bevel on the piece, and now if I roll the scroll wheel it's going to add more and more segments. I'll get it big so you can see. Now what that'll do is make the curve smoother and smoother and smoother until we've got silly smooth, but we don't need that. We just want a little bit of a curve. I'm going to set it there. Nothing too crazy. And there's our nice smooth storm drain. Now we need to cut in some slots for the rain to go through, and we're going to do this exactly the same as we did the stencil. We're going to go back into object mode. We're going to create a new cube. We're going to go straight into edit mode. Face select, and we're going to push and pull the cube until it's the shape and the size we want. Thinking probably about that. I'll make it a little bit shorter. Right, I like that. So we're going to go back into object mode. We're going to pull that up through, and we're going to obviously get a view I'm quite happy with. Going to get it reasonably centered. Yeah, that'll do. Now we could come back in, take these 4 edges, unbevel them if that's what we so wish. Or you could just leave them straight in the square. I'm going to bevel them because I quite like it. Yeah. Cool. We're going to go back over to our spanner and we're going to select an array modifier. Now that has immediately put a copy straight below it. We come over here onto the right and we want to copy along the y-axis, which is this axis along here. So we're going to take the x-axis and return it to 0. We're going to go to the y-axis. Now if we type in 1, it puts another item exactly next to it. If we type in 2, it's going to put this second object with exactly 1 space in the middle. Now if I typed in 1.5, it would move this into half its width away. But I quite like this. And to increase the number, we simply increase the count. And they come with the same spacing, exactly in line with each other. And that to me looks fan-dabby-dozy. So we go back into object mode, select the piece we want to be cut, select Boolean modifier, select the part that we want to do the cutting. Now you can take this little dropper and use it to click on the part you want to do the cutting. Right, I'll explain what's happened here. Union will join the two parts and make one object of them. Intersect will only leave the part of the model that was touched by both pieces. So if we turn off cube 1, all we're left with is that point where our piece is cut through the model. And difference, as you can see, cuts it out completely. So we want difference. You can see those curves make it a nice smooth part. Oh, excuse me, I'm not convinced how well they'll print because of the scale, but it's nice that they're nice. And we're going to apply that modifier. We're going to turn these pieces back on. We can either click on them and click X to delete them, or I've just done Control Z to undo. If we come up to the top here, where we turn it on and off with a little eye symbol, we can also right click on it and hit delete there. Both exactly the same, there's no preference of one over the other. That's just the way it is. So we'll select our remaining model, go to 3D printing, make manifold. As you can see, it's had to make no additions or modifications. And now then, let's set its size. So we want this thing to be, let's get our ruler out and have a look. I don't want it to be huge, I want it to be quite small, so if we say 15, no, let's try that again. If we say 10 deep by 15 wide and by 2 mils deep, that's got about the right proportions. Now this is going to be a little tad too big, I think. And you can see I was a little less than vigilant. The gap here is a little different to the gap here. I'm going to go back and fix that right now. There's loads of Control Z's until we're back in here. Select this. Tweak it along a bit. Yeah, that's fantastic. So that's our array. We like that. We'll apply that. Back to here. Boolean modifier. I know I'm doing the exact same thing again, but I had to come back in, rearrange it, so I now need to go through the whole process again. cube 1, apply, delete our cutting pieces, and there we go, that's loads better. So the dimensions were 10 by 15 by 2. Yeah, loads better. I much prefer that. It's a little thing, but I would have noticed over and over and over again. Right. So, I'm noticing on my screencast, if I press and hold the middle mouse button, which does light up, I can swing around. If I hold shift and press and hold the middle mouse button, it just moves it about in the area. The shift key isn't screencasting. I still, you know, 2 mil might be too thick. We're going to take this down to 1 mil. And besides, at 1 mil, it will print quicker. Yeah, that's better. So, make manifold. Right now we have 21 verts, 41 edges and 2 faces that needed sorting out. That's only because I was rushing through it and I basically duplicated something I shouldn't have duplicated. I noticed as I was doing it, but I also knew make manifold would sort the issue out. So file, export, STL, ding. And we're going to put this in my STLs where I know where it is. Storm drain. Export to STL. So we have this saved as an STL. Dead simple file. Again, I'm not overly fussed about keeping the project file, but if I wanted to, I would go start, save as, call it whatever I wish, save it wherever I want. Cool. Now, let's call in a cube. Let's go straight to the dimensions. And the dimension of our storm drain was 10 by 15. And I'm going to say do well. So we're going to go into edit mode. We're going to face select our top face, go to inset faces, and we're going to pull to about here. We're going to go inset faces again and select it almost instantly without moving it. Now it does move at a teensy bit, but that's going to allow us to pull up a sharp, crisp edge. Now if I didn't do inset edges twice, what would happen is, so I go to inset faces, and I just select that once. Instead of doing it twice, when I pull up, instead of this crisp 90-degree edge, I'm going to get a slope blending from one to the other. So to avoid that, if we do inset faces twice, this lovely nice sharp 90-degree edge. But we don't want that, we don't want that. So why have we made this? Well, this is going to be a punch. I think that's a little too high. We don't need it that high. That looks better. So we're going to use it this way around. We're going to tap the top end here with a hammer, and it's going to punch in a recess underneath the storm drain, and also a part of this topper section is going to punch into the foam. Obviously you gauge how deep with how hard you're going to hit it, just enough so our storm drain can sit flat with the road surface. And then because of this recess underneath it, which you paint black, it would look like it's got a nice hole underneath it. So there we have made a stamp. We've already made a storm drain, and because we beveled the edges of our storm drain, we're going to match that bevel. Control B. Oh, it's been awkward again, peeps. Control B and roll the mouse button to get some curve, to get some extra sections. Think about that looks about right. There we go, we can see what we're looking at. Cool, so we now have a stamp for our road grate. We're going to, back to object mode, we're going to make manifold. You can see no work needed on this model, and we're going to export as an STL, and I'm going to call that storm drain stamp. And export. Now you can export here as well. Export path, export type. You just click that button, you click here to tell it where you want it to put it. Click here and it will export it with the name of whatever your current project is. I'm a creature of habit, I do it this way, but this way is probably faster. If you get used to it, it's much quicker. So I have my stamp, I have no need to keep it, so I'm rubbing it out. So next up we have a manhole cover. It's going to be quite an interesting one. So let us create a cylinder. Let's move the origin down somewhere sensible. Let's create a cylinder. Let's put this cylinder on what is effectively the build plate. I like to think of it as a build plate for my printer. I know it isn't, but yeah, that's just me. I'm a little strange. Cool. Now we're going straight into edit mode. Face select. Select the top face. Squish it down. We're going to go to tools, so we're going to inset the face, about here. We can inset the face again without moving it. Open program. And we're going to drop that down a bit. We're going to inset faces again. And again, really quick, you can see it's moved a teensy bit, but that will be plenty. We're going to look from the side and we're going to pull it up till it's just above the height of this rim. And that really is the hardest part of our storm drain done. Now I've kept this reasonably low poly. You could have subdivided it more and more to make it super smooth around the outside edge. But really, this is all getting sunk into the foam itself. I didn't see the point, so low poly will do the job for us fine. Oh God, excuse me again. Create a cube. it just moved the origin point. We're going to go straight into edit mode. We're on face select, you can tell with these little dots. And we're going to trim this until we've got sort of what we're looking for. I'm looking for is exactly the same as a storm drain. We're going to make a knife that will cut in object mode. Right, let's do me in. Origin to center of mass volume. There we go. So we're going to now move about, play around with the positioning. That's about right. Now, in case you haven't guessed, we're going to go to the modifiers and add an array modifier. Now this has put it on the wrong side when I gave it a count of 2. So we're going to give it a count of -2. Jumps over to the other side for us. Oh, go away. I asked for the button. There we go. And you can have as many of these as you want, or as few of these as you want. And also, by clicking and holding, you can slide the gap width. And to my eyes. I'd say that's pretty darn equal. I don't think we'd notice much of a difference. So we're going to, the piece we want to cut, we're going to add a Boolean modifier. We're going to put it to difference, we're going to select cube, and we're just going to apply. And there we have our nice, neat cuts. Turn cube back on, select it. I'm going to apply that modifier. Now I've got this selected. I'm going to press R to rotate and Z to lock it to the Z axis. And I'm going to twist it just roughly enough. Now down here by my screencast keys, you can see there's a little sort of, it's telling you what we've just done. We've locked to the Z axis and we moved it 85.7 degrees. Well, we want it to be 90 degrees. and we're then just going to move it and going to shuffle it until it's back in the right place for us on the model. Now, what I'm personally looking for, I'm looking at these sections here, on this side here, and I'm looking at these corner cuts on the inside, just to make sure nothing is so tiny that it's not going to print properly. And to be fair, that all looks fine. So we go to the bottom, we go to Boolean modifier, we select it to difference. We select these as our cutting piece, and we're not going to just apply it this time, we're going to check it first. Now I thought this would happen. You see we have issues here. Zoom in so we can see a little closer. These are completely cut out. They should be solid. Now that is because we rotated it exactly 90 degrees, which is no good to us at all. So what we're going to do, when things are too perfect, too exactly lined up, you get coplanar faces. Now that's what's happened here. Now there's a chance Make Manifold would sort this for us, but there's also a chance Make Manifold will make it look awful. So what we're going to do is select the bottom one, we're going to select rotate, and we're going to lock that to the Z axis, and we're just going to rotate it by a couple of degrees. And that is made absolutely no blooming difference at all. We've got issues here where it's not cut properly though. So let's keep cranking it. Keep cranking it. Not going to work. So let's go back here and let's try rotating this. By 1.5 degrees. No. So let's rotate it on the y-axis. Right. Let's have a look first. As you can see, by moving it, I've completely fixed this issue we were having. But I've now got lines, cut lines up here on this face, which we don't want. So what we're going to do instead, let's see where we can see them. Is go the opposite way. So instead of rotating it downwards, we've now rotated it upwards by less than 0.01 of a degree, which is 10 microns, and it solved all our problems except we don't have a proper cut here, and this is all the fun. It's trying to figure out why it's being so awkward. And there we go. So the magic number for us in this case was 0.297 degrees. Very, very little. That's 30 microns. That's still less than the layer of a print line. And no matter how close you look at this, you can't see that those cuts aren't straight or level. If we get really, really, really close, it's still not obvious. So I'm saying that's plenty done enough for our manhole cover. So we are going to select the object, apply that modifier, delete our cube that is invisible, oh come on, thank you. Select this, 3D printing, make manifold, there was no issues. And last but not least, and the reason it's leaping about so much when I just touch the buttons is because it's super tiny. And we're going to say 15 mils by 15 mils by 1. Now it doesn't leap around quite so much, it's more controllable. Yeah, I think for a dead simple manhole cover that'll do. A bit of rust on there, a bit of silver paint, it'll look fantastic. So, as always, we're going to export this, STL, go. Manhole cover, or maybe not. Now let me just get a mini and let me just look at it next to a ruler, because a man has got to fit. And whilst a man would fit, it would be a very tight squeeze. So I think we need to increase the size to 20 by 20. And is one going to be too small? Yeah, we're going to change this to 2 millimeters thick. Just to make sure. Now, again, hit make manifold just to make sure. And I'm going to export that with an STL as manhole cover. Cool. Now that's a little bit more of a complex design, so you may well want to save that as a project so you can come back, make a few tweaks, change a few things if that's what you wish. Or you may think, well, the STL's fine, I'll just leave it at that. Having to remake things from scratch, simple things, every time, right at the beginning is a really, really good way of getting your head around how to use the software. I'm not doing that. Let's put that back somewhere blooming sensible. So let's create a cylinder and let's go straight to dimensions, and we're going to make this 20 by 20 by 30. And as simple as that, that is our stamp for the manhole covers. We're just going to pop it with an hammer. Shot right by us. My little OCDs. The reason I do this all the time is because when I first started out, I found that I was losing objects left, right and centre. I couldn't find them and I'd have to zoom miles and miles and miles out to discover it up here somewhere. And it's because I hadn't quite figured out how to move things around in a 3D environment properly, and centering things on the mesh really helped me at first, and it's a habit that's sort of stuck. Make manifold, perfect as you would expect, and we simply tap that with a hammer to make a little recess in the foam. It's the same dimensions as the manhole cover, which will then pop wonderfully nicely into our little recess that we've stamped in. Export as STL, manhole cover, stamp, and export. Alright, thanks for watching. I hope you found something in here useful at least. If you like it, smash that like button. If you want to see more of these builds, hit the subscribe. Any comments, chuck them down below, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. If you're interested in any of the stamps and the rollers, I've got a Kickstarter running currently. Jump on Kickstarter, have a look for Dungeon Architect. I'll chuck a link down there. And yeah, see you next time.